But let's cross to Adelaide now, where the former Foreign Minister of this great country, Alexander Downer, has returned from London. He's back in the great city of Adelaide. Good to speak to you, Alexander.
Good to speak to you too, Chris, and good to be back in Australia.
Yeah, I bet. Now, let's get into some grubby day-to-day partisan politics first up. Politicians with their snout in the trough. You and I, when I worked for you, a lot of time flying around on VIP jets, RAAF VIP jets, but always very strictly controlled, rules around them. A lot of money spent under this new Labor government, especially by Richard Marles, who happens to live near Avalon Airport in Geelong. So it's a fair way to get across to Tullamarine, where Qantas flies in and out. And it looks like he's been using the VIP for sort of general commuting. What's your thoughts on this? Does it look a little like overuse?
Well, the numbers are big. He's obviously been using the VIP planes a great deal. Why he's been using them and who he's been taking on the planes with him would be interesting to know. Look, this is an issue that goes all the way back to the 1960s when Harold Holt was the Prime Minister, and there was a scandal over the manifests of VIP planes not being tabled in the Parliament, and they eventually were tabled. And so, subsequently, since the 1960s, all of the use of VIP planes has been made very public until the Albanese government, where they've now stopped issuing the manifests of every flight. So when you and I were travelling on those VIP planes when I was the foreign minister years ago, it was publicly available information that we used these planes and we had to justify them in the court of public opinion. But nowadays, it's just kept a secret.
It should not be secret. If you've got nothing to hide, It shouldn't be secret. Just put it out there and then you can justify whatever use has been made.
If he spent, as the Department of Defence claims, $3.5 or whatever it is, $1 million on the use of these planes, well, fair enough, but he's the Deputy Prime Minister, but we would like to see what purpose he's been using them for. I mean, people are speculating that Avalon Avalon obviously is near Geelong. I went to school in Geelong. I'm very familiar with Avalon. But it's convenient for him to use that airport. I understand that. Why did he have to use that airport? Well, it might be a very easy explanation for it. Why keep it a secret?
Yes, spot on. Now, onto a more serious foreign policy issue for the country. There's a government report about the national security threat of climate change that the Albanese government is also keeping secret. Now, you would have had briefings on this as Foreign Minister. Tell me, are there serious climate change security threats to this country?
Well, I do not think they are security threats, and the claims normally made in relation to the security implications of climate change are as the sea level rises, then people will migrate to countries like Australia, which won't be so affected by rising sea levels. But if they're coming from the Pacific, if that ever happens, and that might be in 100 or 200 years, you're not talking about huge numbers of people, and that doesn't constitute a security threat necessarily. The reason they're not publishing this, they make the excuse that it's a confidential and protected document, but they could publish a redacted version of it. They could easily do that, so it wouldn't give away any national secrets. The reason they're not publishing it is because the answer is there aren't significant security implications that come from climate change. That's why they're not publishing it. So it will turn out to be a bit embarrassing.
Yeah, well, let's hope we get to see it at some stage. Now, I want to show you something from US politics. I want to be very clear about this. I'm not trying to mock this man. There's a serious discussion about the mental acuity of the President Joe Biden. And at the same time, we showed a month or so back how the Republican Senator Mitch McConnell was looking pretty shaky. And he's had another bad turn in front of the cameras. Here's Mitch McConnell.
I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you.
That's okay. What are your thoughts on running for re-election in 2026?
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026?
yes.
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator Benny.
Yeah, look, it's horrible to watch, isn't it, Alexander? Mitch McConnell is 81 years old. Now, you only have to see an interview with John Howard to know that well into your 80s you can be sharp, as sharp as a tack. But should there be a retirement age, do you think, for politicians in countries like ours in the US?
Well, I wouldn't be in favour of a retirement age. And when there was a referendum many years ago by the Fraser government to require judges to retire at 70, I voted against it myself, although it did get up. It's one of the referendums that's passed, actually. But no, the public should decide who serves them, and that shouldn't be determined by arbitrary retirement ages. But on the other hand, it's an extraordinary thing in the United States. So many senior politicians are so old. I mean, Mitch McConnell, 81, Joe Biden, 80, Donald Trump, 77. You know, these are quite old people, and not so much Donald Trump, but the other two do behave as old men, and they must maybe their spouses could talk to them about the possibility of retirement. They could write some books and
they could play golf,
watch some TV themselves. Play golf. Yeah, well, they're a bit old for golf. I think they might struggle to get around the course.
Yeah, I think you'd have their measure on the golf course. Great to talk to you again, Alexander. Hopefully we catch up while you're back in the country.